today I'll show a little demonstration of how to put this zombie together and give it a skeleton and make it work. And this zombie has a lot of different pieces to it. It has all these different blood layers that I could click on or off, and the jaw will open and close, and then all these other layers to the different effects of blood. And then I could have a nose, and then different hairstyles. And this really helps because rather than recreate a new zombie every single time, I can just add these different elements to it, and then I could just vary the face up as I need. In other words, more than just a new nose, give it maybe a different facial structure. But anyway, the first thing I want to do now that I have this in Anime Studio Pro, I created this back on February 3rd, 2021, and returning back to it today, I do like the look of it for what I was going for. It's like a cell animated style where I have like just sharp lines here instead of like really smoothed out as in City of Rott, which I definitely like that style too. But I wanted to do something a little different, and this would make the process visually different, only because I'm a big fan of cell animated classic cartoons from the 1980s and before that. Alright, so, and then of course there could be films, modern films, that are cell animated too, but those are pretty rare. So what I'll do now is just separate all these pieces. So I have to be careful. I have to select, let's see, so that piece would go over here. And the reason for this is I want to make sure that these pieces are separate. If they're together, then it just won't work, because they'll all merge into one single piece if I add a skeleton to it. So that's why I have to, on frame 0, set all these up to be separate. And it looks weird, but it's a really great process that really helps out. So this new zombie would be for a new animated film that I'm considering, and it would be a lot different than the original City of Rott, although it would be in the City of Rott series. So let me put this together here, and I have to create the bone, so I'm going to start right here. Start 1, 2, 3. I don't create one for the neck, since the head is what's going to rotate. So now that I have that one there, still highlighted there, I just continue right up to here, and I'm going to angle it here because I want, and then I'll extend it up because he has hair and other things that can be added. For example, hair like that. And I want that to extend up so it can reach that hair. So I'll just put that up a little higher, and then I could add hats to them and different things like that, but I'd have to do that later separately. So right now this zombie has a ton of layers that will slow things down unless I'm careful with the whole process. But it's good to have it all interchangeable at this point, so I can have a bunch of zombies on screen and then have them all look a little bit different if I want, and then all use the same main PSD file. Alright, so now that I have that, and you could test it right now if you want, but you see those other items aren't assigned anything, so that's why they're floating around like that. So next thing I want to do is the arms, so I'll click on the shoulders, the shoulder bone for the skeleton, and now I'll just click on the arms and create these little bones for the arms, and then click on the shoulder again, and then I'll create the other arm, give it the bone so it can move around. And you can see it's really simple, nothing really complicated for that. And now I'll move down to the lower torso. This is the main pivot of the whole character. So now I'll just give it a bone here, there, and then I do want to have his shoe be movable. In other words, so it could bend. This way it has more personality and flexibility. Alright, so now this piece here, the final piece, and then right there. Alright, so now that I have that, I have to piece it all together. So I'll click on the offset bone, and then I'll just pull all these pieces in, and this is where the character really comes to life, even though he's a zombie, so he's technically dead. And with zombies, I always felt that if a zombie is decaying and dead and not alive, it's so hard to believe that they could run like these running zombie movies. I mean, I've seen a lot of them, and it definitely amps up the tension, so I think that's the main reason they have them run, because they feel that slow zombies are too boring. But I think slow zombies are great. And as you can see, this zombie has a really big head, so it's part of the cartoon style that I'm going for. And he's got a short body, but that definitely appeals to me for what I'm going for with this zombie. Alright, so now that I have that, I'm going to test this out. I might as well just zoom in a little so I can get a better view of it. And thanks for tuning in to watch this. If you're a fan of zombies, thank you very much for being a fan of City of Rott, if you're a fan. Alright, so that looks great for his movement, and there's his head movement. See, I can go like that. I could probably move it over a little, but let me do that and see what would happen. Maybe move it over here, and then I'll check that. Yeah, I mean that probably is a little bit better, but the only thing is I'm worried about the back there, towards the back of his neck, so I think I'll just leave it here. Alright, so next thing I'll do is test his arms. That looks great for the rotation. And this is the first time I'm putting this character together, so alright, that turned out great. And then his legs. Wow, that's great. Alright, excellent. So that was surprisingly went really well for the first time I attached everything. That's a great bend of the leg when you get it like that, and it's not kinking in at that point where it like pushes all the leg in. That's pretty rare to be able to do that. I think because the bulky proportions of this character really lends to that. And then I still working on the human characters, and then this special lead character that is different than anything else I've done for the City of Rott up to this point. So this arm here, and this was an idea I had for a while, but I'm still working on the story, which should be a challenge based on this new character. but I think it could be a fun project to really work on for a movie project. And as far as the City of Rott Otherworld, that's still going to be released in 2021. I got confirmation that it's being worked on, and along with my other films as well, for release in 2021. So I'm excited about that. And that was affected by the pandemic and all that stuff, so that's why it's been so long. And thanks again for your patience as a fan of City of Rott. Alright, so now that I have that, I could start, let's see, I can start animating this character. But before I do that, let me jump to frame 1. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to be able to have these adjustable. So if this was a female zombie, I could just shut that off and then switch that back on. See, if I just click on this, it's not animated, so it would never pick up those traits. Actually, I'm just wondering, I could probably just leave these pieces off and just have them like that, and then pick and choose as I want. Maybe that's a better idea. Yeah, I think that might work better, because they're not going to have more than one piece anyway, so I might as well just click them off for each individual zombie, and then have it be where I want for the individual parts. So the one thing I did forget was the jaw. So for the jaw, let me just take a look, make sure this works. The jaw has to open and close. So let me just test this out. So that would be that piece there. And now he's in frame 1. Actually, I should go to frame 0. Oh no, frame 1. That's the only way you can test this out. So frame 1, I'm going to open that jaw, and it has to stay within range. If I don't, look what happens. So that jaw works as planned. It's supposed to open like that and close like that. Now I could put it on a separate bone, and I'll try that right now just to see what happens. But that allows for the zombie to open the mouth easily with just by going in here and selecting those. The only challenge with that is it's connected to this blood here. See, looks like that blood shifted a little. That's weird. Maybe I accidentally moved it. Yeah, obviously I did. So I'll just delete that. Let me see what happens there. Oh, okay, I have to go in here and delete this. There we go. So yeah, that's the challenge of that. That could really mess up. So let me just try to put a separate bone for this character here. I have to go back to frame 0, and let's see, I have to go to my select tool, move up here, and then click on the face bone, and then right here, yeah, this is not going to work. I have to do it the way I had it there. The only way it could work is if I take this bone and separate it. So let me do that. I'll click on this jaw with its bloody part of the mouth and move it here, and now I'll go back under, let's see, I have to go to this here, the lead piece, click on this, make sure it's highlighted, and then just create this jaw here, I want it to rotate, so I'm going to extend that out there, and there it is. So let's see. Now that I have that there, I have to go back to this piece here and bring this all together. So let me go here. Now I'll bring this piece into here. Let's hope it doesn't mess it all up. This might be the better option, much easier. Instead of having to keep track of two separate elements, I could just animate it right here. See, that's the only challenge there. I mean, that works, but now it looks like it's messed up right there. There it works, but I want his mouth to open really wide. So what I'll do is adjust it, so rather than pivot there, maybe pivot down here. So I'll go back to this piece here. I'll click on this button, the translate bone. Have to zoom up a little so I can see it. Then I'll click on this, move that down here, and then move this up here so it's more of a horizontal. Let me see what that looks like. I mean, that's not too bad. That's the problem right there. But yeah, it has to rotate. That's the only way it's going to work. I mean, that seems to work, but now I have to adjust this a little bit. The only way I could do that is in the bitmap image within the GIMP or Photoshop program. But then I would extend this down even further for the back of his jaw. This way it's not open like that right there. But yeah, I think that works for what I'm going for here. So that means I could just smooth that part off, just erase that part there, and then yeah, that I think that works. Alright, so I'm gonna go with that, and now I'll put this character into an animation. And the easiest way to do that is to go into actions and create a bunch of preset animations that I'll animate. This way I can reuse them for whenever I create a new scene and put the zombie in the scene. All the animations will be included with the zombie, and then I can have like 10 or 20 different walks and different styles for their walk. So with this zombie here, alright, the first thing I'll do is the stand, and I'll call it stand 1 because this zombie is going to be a collection of several zombies, and I'll try different styles as well, but this particular zombie. Alright, so here's the basic stand, and I could have a zombie with no blood on him, kind of like that, and then you could shut off the blood on his shoes as well. But for now, I think that looks pretty good with all the blood on there for the zombie. You could put a nose on there and then have him have hair. But let me see if this is a good pose for his resting stance. Alright, a zombie is like just like hanging out, sort of, kind of like waiting for his meal to show up. So maybe he'll be leaning back a little. This will just be one of several stand poses that I could work on, and maybe his knee will be bent in, awkward position. Maybe his arm will be bent in a weird position too, just to make it look like he's got rigor mortis or something weird like that. So he's like a real stiff zombie in terms of being able to walk around. Alright, so now that, but I heard rigor mortis can wear off after a while. After the animal or the person dies, the rigor mortis sets in, but then it can be loosened up again. So it's only a temporary thing. But it's such a creepy aspect of death. Alright, so now that I have this, and I look at it from the point of view of if all the blood was gone and the muscles don't have blood, how can they really work really well, right? And then the brain, I guess, would still be working, the heart would have stopped, so it can't pump blood to the limbs. And let's say there was blood in there, it would start to dry out. And then it wouldn't be effective anyway. But the body needs blood to regenerate cells and have those cells continue to breathe and function and whatever else. So yeah, the whole concept of a zombie is make-believe. And that's one reason I went into the other world, because they said, well, zombies are not possible in real life anyway, in terms of what a real zombie is, where it's actually no longer alive. That's like a paranormal thing in and of itself. If you really think about it, it's not natural at all for something to be dead and then magically start to move around. Yeah, it's definitely in the realm of fantasy, horror fantasy. Alright, so at least that's how I see it. So now moving on to the character here. And the other world is like Silent Hill. That was a big inspiration for the other world, where you can enter this realm where everything is very real, but it takes place in another realm. So it's like you're transported into this hellish region of the world that looks just like it did before, but now all these monsters are there, and the rules of death are, if you become a zombie, you become a zombie forever, since the other world stays there for forever, as long as the other world continues to function. And there's rules to it that I made up in the City of Rott Otherworld, but I'll save that for the movie. Hopefully on track and being prepared for release 2021. Alright, so now let's go to the first stance of this zombie, and that's right there. And this tool here is the manipulate bones tool. So the first thing I'll do is copy and then paste this to 48, since it'll be a 2-second animation. And then here I can just rotate this here and have the arm move a little bit, have that arm shift slightly. The legs I won't bother with, so that moved and that can move there, and maybe, right, well, I'll just leave his jaw the way it is, I won't have it move. So there it is, just a really basic, simple animation for one of his stands. and then I'll create a whole bunch of others. But next thing I'll do now is go to his first zombie walk, and that's the most basic walk possible. Okay, there's the problem right there. That is not supposed to cut off so dramatically there, so I have to go back into the main line, click on 0, go back to assemble this character, and then just adjust this so it's more forward, maybe right about there, because it came forward way too much when it bent. Yeah, that's even worse, so I have to move it back. So I went the wrong way with it, like that. That'll probably be better. I forgot how wide this character is. Yeah, that looks better. You can see some of his back there. I think that works. I could go even a little further back, but I don't want to take the zombie off its track here. Yeah, that works. I like that. And then I have to test this. Yeah, I mean, that works. I can move it down slightly. This way he could reach his arm back and then reach his arm forward. Let me just test this arm here. Best way to test it is to there it is. Okay. Yeah, that works. Alright, so I'll get back to my walk. I'll double click on that. Now it brings me right back here. So that's good. Now I'm satisfied with that arm. Alright, this is the most basic zombie pose for a walk, which is the classic walk for a zombie. And I want these limbs kind of stiff when he's walking, so I'm not going to have too much expression to them. Now I could go like that, but I want him like an aggressive zombie, so I'll have it more like that for his walk. Alright, so now that I have that, I have to give it a height variation. So the way I'll do that is with this translate bone, click on the main torso bone. This way it'll be able to move in height up and down for the height. So now I'll just click on copy paste to 12 and 24, and this will be a zombie that is walking at 1 second intervals, but I could always stretch that out if I wanted to go slower. But one way to alleviate that is just have them take smaller steps. So here's the first step, and this is on frame 6, and let's see what this looks like. I have to rotate his torso a little bit, this way it's not too stagnant, and then move these arms a little bit. And there's no secondary motions going on here, like his hair is not bouncing up and down or anything like that. So then I'll move on to frame 18, and now this leg would be back, this leg would be forward, and then I could move this a little bit again, move that up, and maybe move that down a little, and have his head shift a little. Maybe that head's too far back. I think I might have to adjust that. Let me do that now before I get too carried away with this character. If I move this forward, see, that's too far forward. Alright, well, it's about where it should be then. Maybe you can move it up a little. No. Yeah, that's about right then. Alright, so it looks like it was about in the right position there. I'll jump back to it. So now here's a really, see how he's not moving his height at that point? Alright, and then his torso barely moves here, so it looks really stagnant. I'm going to move this a little bit more. This way it's a little more expressive. And there's a neat trick to give this character more expression that I'll show in just a couple seconds, but that has to do with the height and his skull. Alright, so here he is here. I just want to make sure the skull is keyframed. Alright, so now I'm going to adjust the height, and the way I'll do that is right here. So he's there on the first frame. This frame, his height gets lowered because his legs lowered his height the way they're positioned. So that gives the character a bounce, and that bounce is really important to your walk animation. So here he's bouncing down because his legs aren't upright like they are here, so that he's losing height, and that's why I do that. So now that I have that, I have to decide if that walk is what I'm going for. And let me see, if I go like this and have this bend, here's what would happen. It would go like that, and then that's more like a normal human walk. And the way it'll be a zombie walk is I won't bend the leg on its way back. So here he is right there. In other words, this on its way back would be bent a little bit, but I'll just leave it stiff like that, like his legs are stiff, and he's just trying to move forward. Alright, so now that I have that, I have to adjust his head to a secondary motion just to give it a little more personality. So here, at this point, right here, the head is still at this position because the body went forward but the head didn't catch up yet. So it kicks down the body, and now that the body reached its point, it's going to reach, the head's going to catch up, so the head's going to bounce down with the body at that point. But already the body's moving back up, so the head is stuck. And then at this point the head reaches its peak where the momentum stops, so now it can catch up and move up right there. So the head reaches its peak, and then here it's still at the peak, it hasn't caught up yet. So here I could have it do that and then back to that, just to give it a little more personality. And then I have to check his arms, make sure they're where I want them. And I think I'll just rotate this slightly just to vary it up a little bit more. And let me see. Looks like I might have to move the torso a little bit more. It's a little too stagnant. So what I could do is probably just do that. See right there, it's too stagnant, the torso. It looks like it hasn't even moved. And I want, even though it's a zombie, to have a little personality in his walk. Yeah, that's better right there. So now that I'm on this frame 24, I just want to make sure that this is keyframed properly, and I'll just add a keyframe there. Now I'm going to delete frame 24 because I noticed if I have 24 too similar to 1, it just looks weird. There's a stagnation in the walk animation. So the way to test it is to have a duplicate of the frames, and it just merges perfectly in there, so that's great. Alright, so I don't need those, and now that I have those, I know how to copy that and paste it one over. Alright, so that's it. That's the animation, and I'll create a whole bunch of more walks so I can vary it up. And then of course this zombie will have a few different looks to it, and I'll create some other zombies most likely. But yes, thanks for watching. Feel free to comment, subscribe, like, and share. And thanks for being a fan. Have a good day.